What's the Lions' strength? Their offense. They're a top 5 offense. Maybe even when they're at their best, they're the best offense in the NFL. What's their whole offense based on? Their offensive line. When you have a guy like Jonah Jackson out and things just like, yes, we've had injuries all year, and they've been able to account for them. Like Graham Glasgow's killed it. But I think when Jonah was out, and maybe Graham went over there to. I don't think Colby. It was like a guy where Colby was going in there.
That was the one difference.
You also had
Colby started against the Raiders though.
But he started at right guard. Graham went and started at left guard. That's the thing that was different.
It feels like that.
Different, but
that
even
scenario
Panay
last week
struggling.
was bad.
Even Panay was struggling though. Like that whole offensive line, Graham Glasgow played his by far worst game of the year. Like the Lions just offensively, defensively, they started out slow, and it took a while for them to wake up in the game. And when they did, it was too late. As a whole unit, like you can say that, you can say about the offensive line, you can say that about Jared Goff, you can say that about everybody except Amon-Ra.
If you go back and watch the game, it was just, it felt like anytime pressure got to Jared Goff, it came from the left side. It was every time. And I know it's like, okay, maybe not the right because Panay Sewell, but it was like every single time I watched the pressure on Jared Goff, and in the chat, you guys can go watch this, it felt like it was coming from Taylor or
just up the middle
Colby.
too.
And it was brutal. Graham got... It was brutal. I think that's a huge piece.
It makes me think a lot. It makes me think a lot about the Lions' defensive pass rush because it's like, how are they not finding the 1 weak link on their opposing team? Like each team has as good as the Lions' offensive line are. There's still a hole, whether it's due to injury or you target. It's crazy to say that Graham's the worst offensive lineman when they're all healthy.
Eduardo in the chat, he said we need to put Skipper back on guard. I never want to see. He
was one of their highest graded players last year, but Skipper's no guard, bro.
Yeah, I don't think
he's
so.
the biggest human being ever.
No but even like last year, as far as Broder's point, the defensive line, like this is pretty much the same defensive line that was there last year. And they were producing last year.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
Do you know actually when before Jonah Jackson was out, you know who they actually had? Who I think stepped up a little bit, who's on the IR now?
Big V?
Matt Nelson.
Yeah, that is one. Yeah, it's a veteran.
But he filled in last year as well when things went down. You're now, instead of going from Matt Nelson to a 5th or 6th round pick.
I just remember Matt Nelson in preseason, bro.
I'm with you, but you remember when he stepped in after preseason, we were all going at him, and then he was one of the higher graded PFF guys for the offensive line after his first couple weeks, and we were all like, oh no, and then he got hurt, put on the IR. I'm not saying he was an end all be all, but you're taking Colby or Matt Nelson. Who's going to play better? Experience or
I think it's about, honestly, when I look at it, I think they're about the same. And if Colby,
too many long drinks.
I've had 3/4 of one. But let's realistically, let's think realistically about this. Matt Nelson. I can't remember his draft position. It was probably like a 5th round pick. Colby, same thing. You're just getting experience for Colby at that point. Like it's a draw.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something with me with this Jonah Jackson injury. I think if he doesn't come back in the next couple of weeks, like, I expect the Lions, and I keep saying this, and we're going to talk about the confidence of this game. I expect the Lions. We've seen Dan Campbell get in these little ruts. This rut, obviously, you're coming out 3-1. I expect the Lions to turn it around. Dan's never shown you he can't turn it around. I'm expecting him to do that, and I think it's harder to do that when you don't have guys and you have a guy like Jonah Jackson out, especially after the biggest worry the last 2 weeks was the pressure to Goff and those turnovers. And if you don't have a full offensive line, it's hard to try and take that next step to get more confidence in your quarterback.
You need your quarterback to do it.
You do, and it's hard for you to do that.